at least one more year. Meanwhile, back to the NFL, rookie mini camps for 8 teams are getting underway today. So it's time for a camp pass. I have some questions. I want to talk about the Eagles. Their rookie class will be headlined by wide receiver Mekhi Lemon. D. Wood, they brought in a ton of new offensive weapons. Lemon is one of them, and a bunch of other wide receivers with the expectation that A.J. Brown will be gone. Is it your expectation that Jalen Hurts will be better this coming season in their new offense?
Listen, I got to see it to believe it, Greeny. I know a lot of the passing game with Jalen Hurts has been outside of the numbers because of, obviously, A.J. Brown. But, listen, with all the weapons they've added inside the numbers with Mekhi Lemon and the tight end, Eli Stowers, it should be an easier passing game to digest, but that's something that Jalen Hurts, quite frankly, hasn't done a lot of in the pros.
Mike T., what are you looking at on all these new receivers in Philadelphia?
I worry about the size of the new receivers. Mina Kimes on NFL Live mentioned something similar the other day. When you look at A.J. Brown presumptively going to the Patriots or someplace else, he's a heavyweight. And look at the weight of all these other new receivers, Brady. I love Mekhi Lemon, but these guys are undersized. And as Hembo pointed out, Jalen Hurts does not like to throw the ball between the numbers. He's at a rate lower than any other starting quarterback. So when you think about a wide receiver group resembling a basketball team, they're moving on from a power forward and a center. And what you worry about is these undersized receivers, who's going to go across the middle. So I think it's a grade of incomplete, and we have to see how this plays out.
Jordan, how about it? What are we looking at for Jalen Hurts this year?
I love the way they address the specific need, like D. Wood said, of attacking the middle of the field. Jalen's done that at a lower rate than anybody in the NFL over the last 2 years. The two guys they got, Mekhi Lemon, 4th in all of college football in yards per game between the hashes. Remember, those college hashes are a little wider than in the NFL. And then Eli Stowers, 7th overall in all of college football in yards per game between the hashes on throws over the middle. So both those guys, day one, are going to have an impact of filling that weakness that really Jalen Hurts and this offense last year showed us.
Stay in the division there. The Dallas Cowboys went defense with their 1st and 2nd and 3rd picks, including moving up to get Caleb Downs at number 11. The question is this. Their offense last year was certainly playoff, if not championship caliber. Jordan, have they improved their defense enough to be a legitimate contender?
Yeah, and it starts with Caleb Downs. He's a force multiplier. Look, he was the quarterback of the defense for Nick Saban and Matt Patricia. Enough said. A lot of times, the problem last year for Dallas was giving up explosive plays. Gave up more explosive plays of 25 or more yards than anybody in the NFL. How do you stop that? First, you got to have better recognition pre-snap of knowing where you're leveraged, what the offense is trying to do. Caleb Downs, day one, will be one of the smartest football players on that side of the football for Dallas. The other issue is you got to get after the quarterback. Can't give him time to sit back there and throw the ball downfield. Rashawn Gary, they acquired via trade this offseason, and Malachi Lawrence, their other first-round draft pick, should really help get after the quarterback. I think Caleb Downs can have a massive impact year one.
Mike T., is their defense ready to be good enough for that team to have a legit chance?
Absolutely. And when you think about Jalen Thompson and Rashawn Gary, they did some work before the draft. So I think they've improved all 3 levels. You know, the big variable here is Christian Parker's never called to play in the NFL, the new defensive coordinator coming over from the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's going to do really well, but there could be some growing pains there. But on paper, this is a dramatically improved defense, one that matches or gets closer to their great offense.
And D. Wood, I will ask you, and that George Pickens seems like he's going to be back. He signed the franchise tag. Maybe he's going to play on that happily and be have sort of the incentive to have another huge season for them. You think that the Cowboys, the team that tends to always have something go wrong, may finally have everything right?
Well, listen, I think that they have a championship offense. They can score with anyone. If I've always said with the Cowboys, the defense is at least average.
Right.
At least average. They'll have a shot in the NFC. I don't predict the Cowboys. Like I have other favorites in the NFC, but I think the Cowboys can raise the level on the defensive side of the football. They will have an opportunity.
Let me get one more team in here, and that's the Chiefs. They also went heavy on the defensive side in the draft, selecting Mansour Delane and Peter Woods, amongst others. Mike T., they had won the division 9 years in a row before last season. Are the Chiefs back to being the best in the AFC West?
Absolutely, Greedy, they are, because of what you just mentioned. I think Mansour Delane is a frontline difference maker. Looking at it here, he can play man-to-man, great ball skills, can tackle. And then Peter Woods a year ago was a top 10 pick. I think Steve Spagnuolo can get a lot out of him. So I think he's going to be a really big difference maker next to Chris Jones. I think the Chiefs get back to winning the division.
So, Jordan, we see that there. The Chiefs are the favorites at DraftKings to win the AFC West. Are they your favorite?
They are, because I trust Patrick Mahomes, and I love what they did defensively. I mean, to Mike T's point, I covered Delane a lot in college. He was the best man-to-man cover corner in all of college football. And Blake Baker, their defensive coordinator at LSU, had a lot of blitz packages where he wasn't very leveraged. He was on an island, so he immediately feels the need for a guy that can lock down on the outside or inside. They'll be able to move him around a little bit, without Trent McDuffie. The draft pick that I think goes under the radar that I love, and Peter Woods is great. He'll be a great understudy for Chris Jones. They got R. Mason Thomas out of Oklahoma, the edge rusher at number 40, just after Peter Woods. He is a monster. I watched every snap of him in college, and every team had to design their entire pass game around where that athletic monster was on the football field. He can absolutely change a game, and he's a sneaky one that no one's really talking about yet.
But the Chiefs are not your favorite to win that division.
No, they're not. They're not. I have the Denver Broncos still winning that division. But here's the thing about the Chiefs that I really like. In 2024, they were 11-0 in one-score games.
Yep.
In 2025, 1-9. 1-9, and it primarily because of the shortcomings on the defensive side of the ball, which they addressed in the draft.
So the pendulum swung one way, and then it swung all the way back the other. Congratulations to Mike Tannenbaum and the entire Tannenbaum family. He's in Ann Arbor for his daughter Ella's college graduation at Michigan this weekend. Good for you and the family. Mike T, we're happy for you.
Yep.
Thanks for...
It is the game show that continues to sweep the nation. Fraud or laud. It's not high T. It's not low T. It's Mike T.
That's him right there.
Mike Tannenbaum, our first caller. Let's get to the phones. It's Aaron Rodgers. And he says he needs just a few more months to make a decision on his future. Is that fraud or should we laud?
Randy, that is absolutely fraud. Come on, Aaron. If you're going to play, you're going to play. And here's what's important. They have a number of new skill players. They drafted Jeremy Bernard from the University of Alabama. They added Michael Pittman. They added Rico Dowdle. If you're coming back to win a championship, you're going to be 43 in December. Get into camp now, OTAs, minicamp. Let these new skill players get familiar with you. So if you're going to play, we need to know.
Let's stay in the AFC North. Our next caller is Browns GM Andrew Berry. He says Cleveland going to roll with 4 quarterbacks, Mike T. Is that fraud or is that laud?
Yeah, Gary, that is definitely fraud. You can't get three quarterbacks ready to go, let alone 4. So if it's Shedeur Sanders, if it's Dylan Gabriel, you got to let somebody step up, even if it's going to be Deshaun Watson. I think Dylan Gabriel could be traded to Atlanta. Kevin Stefanski was the head coach last year, and then probably the Falcons could wind up with 3 lefties in Michael Penix, Tua Tagovailoa, and maybe Dylan Gabriel. So if I was them, I would move on from a quarterback, and I would do it sooner than later.
Well, that's what Randy Scott always says. If you have 4 quarterbacks, you have none quarterbacks.
You have none quarterbacks.
That's what he says.
That's very true. They got one in Dallas, though. And our next caller is Mr. Jarrah Jones. He says the Cowboys have done enough on defense this offseason to compete for a Super Bowl.
Oh, a Super Bowl.
Fraud or laud?
Randy, that's law. They've had an outstanding offseason on defense. First of all, before the draft, Jalen Thompson, Rashad Gary, outstanding additions. And then looking at some of these draft players, Jay Sean Barham, Malachi Lawrence, and of course the great Caleb Downs from Ohio State. So they've addressed all 3 levels of their defense to go with a championship offense. The Dallas Cowboys are going to be a really good team this year.
All right. This is normally the time, Mike T. We have you claim your prize, but we actually have a bonus caller this morning. It is Ella T. calling from Ann Arbor. She wants to stay on the family payroll despite graduating from the University of Michigan this weekend. Mike T, is that fraud or is that laud? And is your prize just simply knowing you don't have to cut any more tuition checks?
Yeah, unfortunately for Ella, that's fraud. Look, we love Ella. We're very proud of her, but she's not salary cap friendly. She is a free agent, and we expect her to flourish in the free agent market in the pending weeks and months.
She's not salary cap friendly.
Mike T meant every word of that answer, by the way.
That's amazing. Thanks, Mike T. Congrats to Ella. Congrats to the Tannenbaum.
Come on.
Football rolling on tomorrow with our U.S.